All right. Well, welcome everyone. Appreciate you being here for the June 22nd meeting of the Planning Commission. Just like to acknowledge there's people in the crowd tonight, and I imagine there's one of the items that you'll want to speak to, and when we get to that point, I'll let you know when it's time that you can give your input for a public hearing. I'm Commissioner Barris. I'm the chair of the Planning Commission, and I'd like to just go to the first item of business, which is approval of the minutes from the May 25th meeting of the Planning Commission. So, commissioners, hopefully you had a chance to read through the minutes, and if there's no additions or deletions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval and a second. So we'll just do this by a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the votes are unanimous for approval. So we'll move on to the next item. This is a final plat subdivision approval for Carling subdivision located at 97 East Crestwood Road. So we'll just turn the time over to the staff for the report.
Alrighty, folks.
Hold on, Dan, just one sec. Hold on, sorry. Commissioner Allred would like to sustain or abstain from, abstain from.
Oh, he wants to abstain for this one?
Sorry, I didn't speak up.
Okay.
I wasn't able to see them, and I didn't read them, so as long as we've got enough votes, I'm just going to abstain.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah,
Great.
So.
Thank you, Indy.
So how do you get yours to be as loud as hers?
Well, they just need to talk right into it.
Mine, this one?
Yeah, just.
Just need to lean in, that's all. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Dan.
Alrighty, this is my turn. Mr. Carling was here a while back. He's got a parcel on 97 East Crestwood Road. If you remember, we rezoned it to R16, and then we done the preliminary plat. It went all through. Then he's done all his construction drawings. Dexter's looked them all over. Everything's according to Hoyle with him. He gave us a letter of recommendation that they're approved. And so now we're just here to to approve the final plat, which is exactly how we had the preliminary plat. We've got two lots. It was originally 0.34 acres. He went from R18 to R16, and they meet all the frontage, they meet the setbacks. The only thing is on the conditions that we had through the preliminary plat and the final now is he's going to have to repair that garage or get the garage moved back so it will meet the setback for his new lot, and he is going to have to install all the services stubs before we will record, and he's agreed to that, and so we're pretty much final plats should be no-brainer.
Okay. Any questions for staff from the commission? Any discussion needed on any of the items? We do have the letter from Dexter, so.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a standard plat checklist that we do for concept and final or preliminary?
Yes,
and final?
sir. Dexter has one. He goes through the whole thing. We went through that a long time ago, and 21 points, and it's good to go.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there are any questions. Yeah, sure. If the applicant's here, yeah, come on up. If you'll just state your name, please.
So I'm Brian Carling, the applicant. A few of you, nice to see some new faces. You guys might not have known, this was back, I think, in February. If you have questions about this, I'm happy to answer any of the questions about it, because it was a rezone. There's not very many R16s in the city. We tried to make it a very clean lot separation. My son is in the 99-year-old home, and he's going to stay there. It's just homes are outrageously expensive in Kaysville. But if you have any questions about it, I'm totally happy to answer. I can give you kind of some ideas of what we're thinking about with the new lot. It's a fairly prominent corner. The big catalpa tree will stay there. It's right just south of that is the splash pad in the park. On the very east, the east end of lot 1 is a great big catalpa tree that will stay there. Hopefully the weeds will get out of there. But if any of you have any questions, I'm totally happy to be open and honest about what the plan is.
So the house is remaining, but then the garage is going to have to be altered?
We just got a bid, they're gonna start July 6th, hopefully, if you guys say yay, we'll take off about 2.5 feet.
Because
And
it's detached, right? The garage
It's
is
a detached, you have, can you pull up
Yeah.
the original,
You can kind of see that
first
in the picture.
attachment? Or even an aerial map and just zoom in, because that was the one thing. The detached garage, it's about $100,000 to build a garage like that. And it's cinder block, it's not great, but we're gonna safely get 2.5 feet cut off the south end. But then we've got, according to building code, we've got to do the firewall break because these setbacks are 5 feet on the R16s.
Okay.
So we have to have the fire block on both sides, the inside and the outside, and we want to make it a little better than the cinder block. So, but anyway, there, you can see from the aerial map, that lot line goes right through the south foot of the existing building. The existing house will stay the same. We have to gussy up the outside because it's ugly.
You're going to have to amend the building? You're going to have to physically?
Yeah.
No,
The garage. The garage, they're gonna have to, so the garage, if you look on page, right there, you can see in the, this is in our packet.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see it.
The lot line goes through their garages, so they're taking 2 feet off that garage. And then what they'll do then is they're going to reconfigure the garage with a fire block. I mean, it's quite costly for the applicant to do this, to be able to get. To be
way
able,
cheaper than building a garage.
but it gives them the flexibility to be able to have the home and build on the second lot. And so this was, I think this was the Solomon's solution for us.
It's about a 36-inch north to south garage, so there's plenty of space to do that and still make it very functional.
Yeah.
But there's so much exterior improvement to be made. Hopefully, the corner will be nice. So it's been neglected for about 3 years now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there, just looking at this from a geometry perspective, is there no way that we can adjust the lot line somewhere else on the lot to avoid having to partially destroy the building to meet the sacred setback?
I think
I'm serious.
We talked about that last
this
time,
went,
right?
this has been through so many iterations to
Yeah.
get where it
Has it?
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess I missed all the mental gymnastics we did to try to avoid this.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about the cost.
I do. I just think,
It's part of making everything clean.
I'm trying to think of all the creative ways they used to deal with this. One would be to allow the setback incursion, to allow the property owner to give an easement on their property, a permanent easement.
Yeah, you could.
But anyway, I'm not going to throw a wrench in the works at the end. If there's creative ways to avoid having to do that with the building, I'd be in favor of that. But it sounds like we've been there, done that. So, okay, great.
Any other discussion? If not, we have the recommendation from the staff to approve with that condition of the detached garage being modified for the setback requirements. So otherwise, everything is in accordance with the plat, and those, it'll be recorded after, those changes are made, so.
I'll make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Carling subdivision at 97 East Crestwood Road
Okay,
with those given modifications.
And I'll second with the findings that are in the staff report.
okay. Thanks for doing the findings of fact. So we have a motion for approval and a second. We'll start the voting with Commissioner Shepard.
Aye.
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 All right, so the voting is unanimous, so the final plat is approved. We'll go on to the next item of business. This is a public hearing for a text amendment to Title 17, Chapter 24, Farm Animals. So we'll have a report by the staff, and then we'll have a public hearing after that. So I'll let you know when that kind comes. So we'll turn the time over to the staff now for the report.
All right, I believe this is mine too.
Is that yours too? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
So a couple weeks ago, a little family called me up and says, hey, Easter came, some people dumped off some ducks off at the pond, and they're domestic ducks, so they can't fly. Someone's going to eat them. Can we have them? And I said, let's see. So I looked up their yard and stuff, and they was too small. But fortunately, we had a zoning conflict for the size of their lot. So anyway, I said, the only way we could do it is maybe do a text amendment. So they went and done a whole bunch of research, and they brought in, I got it with you, pages of stuff, documentation. Then I spent nights on YouTube looking it up, urban chicken raising and stuff. Turns out that our ordinance was over-exaggerated for the square footage I feel you needed for a happy, healthy chicken. I found out you need 15 square feet for a happy, healthy chicken to run around, and I guess they're perfectly happy with that. You need 3 square feet for them to coop up. And so I done a little math and figured that a 10 by 12 little structure that would require no permit and would be placed anywhere in anybody's yard pretty much and meet the setbacks of 15 feet for a house and stuff. And that would only be for the coop, so the coop would only actually be 2 by 4. If you double stack, you got enough room for your chickens. So it's very minimal space what would require for a chicken. So what we've done is we went through our ordinance and changed. You can see what we're doing. The reason I went with a 4,000 square foot lot is there's some twin homes and some over on I can't remember, 750 South and like 3050 West or something over there in the Mutton Hollow area. Mm-hmm. They've had chickens and requested before, so I included them. Because what the minimal lot for that is you take an 8,000 square foot lot, and that gives you enough room for a twin home. You split it in half, that put 4,000 on each side. Mm-hmm. And so I figured, hey, let's include them while we're doing this. So we went with 4,000, and then I went with 700 square feet per chicken. That's way more than 15 square feet. And that got us to the number of the lot that they had. I got them there 7 ducks, and we feel like if you go 4,000 divided into 7, that puts you around 4 or 5, I can't remember. So it's less, but I feel that there's no way that we could justify that somebody couldn't put them in and have happy, healthy chickens after all the research that they provided, what I looked up on YouTube, and I think this addresses it and allows for accommodations for happy, healthy birds and shouldn't cause any grief with neighbors.
Okay. Any questions for Dan?
What was the setback that we came up with? Is it from a property line or from a neighboring structure?
So what you got is on our ordinance, for your coops, they're supposed to be 15 feet from your house or 15 feet from adjacent neighbor's outbuilding even. So you've got to be 15 feet from your house or your neighbor's.
Or your neighbor's house.
Your neighbor's house or your neighbor's even shed.
Accessory building.
Right.
Okay.
And that's where we come up with the numbers. It's already in the ordinance.
Will this be something that they have to come in for a license for an approval,
No,
over-the-counter?
Go ahead.
Will this be an over-the-counter kind of approval, or
They're just permitted use.
just permitted? Okay, they just do it. Somebody calls in and you say it's permitted.
Yeah, and you just have to meet the ordinances, and I'll go through it with them. And I said,
Yeah.
you got to keep your coop at 15 feet. You know, when
Yeah.
you call up, I go through all that.
That's what I mean. So it's an over-the-counter where you would just meet with them and say, go ahead.
Permitted use over the counter. I'll chat them up, tell them the rules,
Yeah.
show them where to find them, and should be
Yeah.
good.
No notice to neighbors. We don't have to let the neighbors
No.
know, hey, your neighbor's going to do a chicken coop. And
Right.
okay, great. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go into the public hearing section of the meeting. So we'll open the public hearing. So if you'd like to come up, we just may ask you to. What's that?
Can I talk about the animals before you move on?
Well, I mean, could you just speak to that like during the public hearing or? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you're certainly welcome to come up. So yeah, if you just come up and state your name. So the public hearing is open now. So the time is yours to speak to this text amendment.
Hi, my name is Joan Wilden, and I wanted to see about goats, baby goats, little miniature goats. And I noticed that on West Bountiful, they have this in their requirements, and it says miniature or pygmy farm animals will have 1/2 the points of the normal sized species. And I thought that would be a great thing to add to Kaysville. So I would like to recommend that that be added.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily part of this request. I mean, maybe what I would say is that we're considering this change for the chickens tonight. And so, certainly this would be a great thing to bring up in a future meeting. So you could work with Dan, to make that text amendment. So
I didn't get the message until just a few days ago, so it wasn't, I guess, enough time to get it on tonight's plan.
Yeah. And so that would give you
I thought that I'd be able to come and talk about it tonight.
well, you brought it for us, so that's fine. But what I'm saying is that it would be good for the staff to be able to do the research and then that propose those changes and for a future meeting.
And who should I leave this quote with?
I think Dan would probably be the right person to do that. Or Melinda. Okay, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
The staff keeps us in line, so that, yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else would like to speak to this?
I'm Quincy Lurcher, spouse of the applicant, Marissa. I wanted to thank the commission as well as Dan for the abundance of assistance and discussion on things. The only thing that we request that the commission consider is, since Dan had mentioned that current square footage is still ample room for fowl, is simplifying the code and perhaps having a unified square footage just like we have for sheep, horses, pigs, that sort of thing there. Do you guys have any questions about what's been proposed that we can answer?
I don't particularly.
So just to clarify, can you say again? And
Yeah, so currently with our current ordinances, let's see, did we have the square footage listed up there? I didn't see if we, in the proposed square footage, if you could go back to that.
I'm getting really good at this.
are you just recommending that we add flexibility like she was suggesting?
So a consideration here is we can see that for all of sheep, goats, llamas, and all those sorts of things, they have a fixed square footage regardless, whereas these have kind of a variable square footage. Given that the 435 is ample space already for the fowl, we propose a consideration of just making it a single square footage as a possible revision to that, to simplify code.
Oh, to get rid of the 435 and go with the 700?
It doesn't necessarily have to be the 700. It's just more of a unifying thing to make it easier for people.
Okay. So if we just went to 700,
Yeah, we did
down
700
through
or
there,
500 or whatever the number is, but just across the board.
so everything under a half acre, it would be 700 per animal for this class of animal.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
good suggestion.
Thank you very much.
Is that because you want fewer animals?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we'll gladly take more animals for sure, but it's mainly as a code simplification, because that was one of the concerns in our meeting with Dan that had been brought up, is we had proposed a point system, but it might be a bit too complicated. So this was proposed an alternative because it was simpler, and so it's just a proposal of making it even more simple in that it's just a fixed square footage per animal with a fixed minimum.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Can I put some input in on that? Can I say something? I wouldn't want it to reduce the number of animals that are allowed.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. While we would love for the 435 to be the fixed square footage all the way down, we understand that we haven't discussed that, and we're just bringing this up now. So that might be something we discuss with Dan at a later time, or with the commission.
Okay. All right.
Awesome, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. So now we have a discussion amongst the commission. Any consideration for the this question for having to standardize for the lot size, or questions about like why the lot size was chosen or the square footage size was chosen?
I'll comment that I appreciate staff's work. Think it's reasonable what he's done. Check out what other people are doing, see what makes sense. And a lot of times that's where you get your best ideas, is even from the internet. So as somebody who's got goats one lot down, and I've got chickens right next door, and St. Bernards, big St. Bernards, the St. Bernards are a lot more intrusive than the chickens are. And the chicken coop that my neighbors have right next door to me is tiny, and they've got 4, 5, 6 chickens in there, and they're fabulous. They're great for the family, and kids and grandkids love them, and I'm all in favor of more urban food production. I think any way we can allow flexibility in our neighborhoods for people to do urban farming is a good thing. So I think these numbers work. I think the standardization of going to 700 is fine. We don't have to do that tonight, I suppose. The council will see this, they can do what they want with it.
Sure.
It does reduce slightly, but again, 700 is plenty big, I think, for a rabbit, and certainly for a chicken. My neighbors let the chickens out, I think once or twice a week. They go wander around the yard. They don't go far from the coop, and then they head back in. So the only concern we've ever had, that I ever had when I worked for a city, were the roosters that, get up really early at 4 in the morning and they're going crazy. That drives neighbors crazy. Did we talk about that at all? Was that part of this consideration?
We already have an ordinance. You can only have a rooster in an RA.
Okay.
Or an A.
Okay.
So anything residential, R1, no roosters are allowed.
Okay.
Call Jeff at Davis County tomorrow and ask him about roosters. He'll have a long conversation with you about roosters.
Who?
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff Euler?
Euler, yeah. He loves to discuss this topic about rooster ordinances.
We had real trouble at Holiday with roosters. We really did. Some of those big, large estate lots, the massive homes, and they don't want to hear anything. And they'll have somebody there who was there from the 50s or 60s, grew up there, and rich people move in next door with a big home, and they want all the farm sounds to stop. And so you're constantly having to referee that. But I don't sense that's an issue here. So this looks pretty good to me. And if we want to come back later and deal with the other ones.
It's the coyotes that howl out west on the West Davis corridor that, concern me the most.
Yeah. I'm in that area too. Foxes and coyotes.
Are we going to talk about the standardization? I'm not sure that I understand the number breakdown. Maybe someone can explain that to me?
I can give you an idea of what I did.
Okay.
Okay, so what you have at 21,780
Right.
is a half acre.
Okay.
And that's when you start including horses and bigger animals. Yeah. The R1 20,000 is more or less, the R120s and smallers, usually just a 20,000 square foot. And to be honest with you, I don't see a problem with the 435. I was just trying to make it as meet what they're after and try to make the numbers conducive to what the council would agree with. I'm just working for them, basically. Sure. If you guys want to recommend taking it down, I'd sure pass that forward to the council if you like. I mean, you guys are the ones that recommend. If you want to recommend we go straight shot 435, I'm cool with that. I was just playing conservative on their behalf, trying to get it to work for their situation, but you guys are welcome to do whatever you feel works. I feel that 435, after my research, would be, you know, for chickens and fowl and rabbits. I don't see that'd be a problem, but
Just the way with the numbers, how they were previously, it looks like as the lot gets bigger, the numbers should get smaller, but we've got that 800 and then it goes to 435 and I'm completely confused.
and see that's
So I see why you're mentioning standardization, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. If you have a bigger space, you need less room for each animal? That doesn't make sense.
Well, I think
Allows you to have.
I think it's because you have more animals on a bigger lot, so you can have more animals, but you need less space.
But what if you don't?
It's the density.
What if you just have chickens?
If you ever had chickens.
No, but I'm saying,
Yes.
I live on a half acre. What if I only want chickens and now I'm limited by how many chickens I can have?
So it actually allows you to have more chickens.
More chickens.
Right. You can have more chickens
Yeah,
in a
more
smaller
chickens.
You only,
space.
On smaller
yeah.
space.
But it is a little, like,
It's-
I
it's-
wondered the same
you're getting-
thing.
You're getting more density with the smaller number.
I would support the lower number across the board. It seems like ample room to me.
The 435.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yep.
Or just lower it to 500 and be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, meet in the middle.
Keep it
Round it to
simple.
5.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. 435 seems kind of arbitrary.
Yeah,
What if they have 434? We're going to say no?
that's I've had to say that on turkeys,
Right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I'm off by a square foot. Oh, yeah.
okay.
Going to rezone, ask for a rezone because we're off by a foot.
Get an animal easement.
I say just round it to 400 or 500 and be done with it and be consistent all the way through.
Just put it on the fence in your neighbor's yard that's zoned RA.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever, whenever someone puts forward a motion, they can just put that in the recommendation for the city council to consider that. So,
You know what, then, I'll make a motion to approve the amendment, hold on, let me get to it. The text amendment for Title 1724-2 Farm Animals, Animal Allowance, with the, with the amended language for lot area to 500 across the board for all of them, down to the half acre.
Could you say that a little louder? 500 where?
Down to half acre,
All the way across the board.
from R14 down to R121.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion for, a recommendation for approval and a second. So we'll start with the voting with Commissioner Packer.
Aye.
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 Okay, the voting is unanimous, so that recommendation will be forwarded to the city council when they, do you know when they'll consider this?
It should go on the 20th of July.
Okay, just so you're aware, you can attend that meeting, you know, when that becomes before the city
And we'll
council.
keep you posted. We'll email you or let you know when that next meeting is.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for being involved.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll go on to the next item of business, which is a public hearing for,
You said no roosters are allowed, is it just because of noise? Can you do something to the rooster so it can't make that noise? And then are they okay?
So the roosters are only allowed on areas that are zoned agriculture in the city. So residential, they're not allowed. So roosters are only allowed in agricultural zoned areas in the city. They're not allowed in residential, even if you try and collar them.
okay. All right, so we're going to go on to the public hearing for a text amendment to Title 17, Chapter 33, sign regulations. And Dan, is this one yours well to
Yes,
represent?
sir.
We'll turn the time over to you.
Busy.
I just gotta find my little stuff on it, but anyway, this is, a while back, I believe, council and you folks asked us to look at this again. We have that corridor going down the Loose Road. I think it was addressed, but back then they called it State Road 67 or something, and that was when I was originally gonna tie on all the way from Salt Lake to Ogden the first time. Then it got kiboshed, Rocky Anderson, whatever, I don't know, remember the whole detail. And then, so now they call it R177. Our ordinance kind of said that, but didn't. So what I done is done a little research. Mindy made me a list of 30 cities, counties that had scenic byways go through them. I called them all up, or else dug through their ordinance to see if there's anything. And the ones I talked to a few planning directors of counties, cities. They all laughed at me. What? And I says, dude, this is what I'm asked to do. And he says, well, this is how we look at it. The byways are state regulated. They determine the signs, whatever's in there. He says adjacent properties are private property. We just go with strictly if it's county, the zoning, and that's why you see billboards across them. If it's city, we allow for the cities to make their own ordinances, and the adjacent property is outside the corridor, and so that's how we regulate. That's what everybody told me. And so that's basically what we decided to go with, is just our ordinance. Melinda did go through our ordinance, clean up a little housekeeping if you want. You probably looked through it and seen all our red lines and stuff. All she done is done some, I can't even remember how to say it, but just changed, if I find it, I guess. Changed some house clean and made it so it's more, how she want to read out, instead of planning commission, called agency, so some of the stuff we can do. And then basically we're just gonna go with the idea of everybody else, that the byway is its own identity. Adjacent properties will be done by zoning. And the only protected area that we could see was west of the corridor, because that's where we are really protected. And so we did make one clause in there that excluded any signs over 8 feet in the city that would be on the west side of that corridor. And so, and there's only 2 parcels in the city that's on the west side. It's either the conservatory, which I doubt you'll ever see anything in there, or the UDOT, and they'll do whatever they want anyway. And so basically, I think we're protecting what the intention was to protect, and we're providing for the people on the east side that shouldn't really be worried about protecting any visual to allow for signs that's already permitted by use.
All right, thanks for your report, Dan. Commissioners, what questions do you have for staff?
So to clarify, basically nobody regulates these outside of the city limit. And we're not proposing to do that either, except 8 feet is what, 8 feet would be the max.
We just proposed that one there, that little ordinance addition there that says anything in the city that's, but
and that our regular zoning codes would apply on the east side.
East side everywhere.
And from your findings, I thought you got your justification just right. There's really nothing to protect on that east side. The west side is where we're trying to keep it clear and unobstructed. So we go with 8 feet there, and then whatever city zoning regulations would apply to any property on the east side of the right-of-way or the designated byway would apply.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so this came up because of the proposed gas station, right?
Yes.
And some maybe misinformation from public clamor mentioning that other cities had regulations on their signage. I think they used Centerville as the example, and you've cleared that up. It's like crystal clear now that, no.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
I wrote that.
Just wanted to make sure it's all straight in my head. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions before we move into the public hearing? Okay, so we'll now declare the public hearing open. So if you'd like to speak to this particular item, this is your chance to do so. Any takers? Okay, I'm seeing just nodding head no. So we'll close the public hearing. And now is our time to discuss this item as a commission. So any concerns with the changes or we need to discuss?
I think the scope of this is so narrow with just basically what a property in question. And we know the property that generated all of this, so it seems pretty straightforward to me. This is not something in the long term that we're going to be worrying about with commercial properties up and down, West Davis, that we're going to be going, oh my gosh, we're going to get this over and over again.
Well, I don't think we have 3 exits to worry about.
What?
We don't have 3 or 4 exits to worry about.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't have 55 acres of property that's going to be all in commercial there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So does that also apply down at 950 in Farmington, that interchange there? Do we have any property that directly abuts that?
I don't believe anything in Kaysville. The only properties that I seen was the DOT owns them, sewer district owns some. And they're not gonna probably do anything.
Right.
They could put out a big sign saying compost available.
Yeah, I guess so. But they're allowed to anyway.
That's usually
So.
fence height.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I heard somebody say they were thinking about doing some economic development down there by the sewer, and I thought, well, you'd have to get them to sign off, and I don't think they have 1 square foot more they want to give up.
They don't want to, from what I understand, the sewer district's hanging on to everything they've got.
They're what?
They're hanging on to everything they've got.
Absolutely, yeah,
Because UDOT came through and was trying to get property out of them a few years
Yeah.
ago, and they said,
yeah. If we didn't have that traditional use down there, it might be different. And maybe that would be a spot to do some, but seems it's pretty jammed in there between Farmington City, their boundary, and our boundary in the sewer district, and their quasi-public entity, so. I don't know what our general plan says there. I should know that, but I don't. Anyway.
It says sewer district.
Says what?
It says sewer district.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this is really narrow, and
I think, if I remember right, it says housing.
it's what?
Housing,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Because
curious about the 45 feet. Are we locked into that as a general
The
ordinance?
45 feet is actually within 300 feet of the I-15. Total separate, because the corridor is
It
going to
doesn't
be
affect out there.
down on the bottom of Second North, and you know where the I-15 is, but and so the 45 feet would be like Blaine Jensen's or Earl Les Schwab, somebody along there that's got a sign that's, most of them are even under 45 feet, but that would allow for them to have a 45 foot.
Yeah.
And that's been like that for
ages.
ages.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then out west is further than 300 feet from I-15. And so right now the zone is 30 feet. And to be straight up with you, I think they did propose a 25-foot sign.
Didn't they voluntarily said they'd go to 25?
But our ordinance would allow for 30, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion needed, or?
Thanks for doing all that research.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
It all pays the same.
I'm a little disappointed to see that the listserv didn't give you any feedback. That's really disappointing, because the listserv has been a very valuable tool in the past. And anyway, just editorializing a little bit. That's what it's there for, is for planners to be able to send a query out there and say, hey, who's dealt with this?
I probably wasn't smart enough to do that. I went the hard way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if anybody's willing to make a motion, I'd be willing to entertain it.
Oh, I will.
Okay, go
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance text amendment, Title 1733 sign regulations, based on the foundings of our staff.
Okay.
I'll make a second.
All right, so we have a recommendation for approval and a second. We'll start with voting with Commissioner Lyon.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the voting is unanimous for that recommendation for approval. So that'll be forwarded on to the City Council as well. Will that be on the 20th as well? Okay, perfect. All right, so we're now to that time in the meeting where we have called the public. So if there's any, we'll just open up the podium. If anybody would like to speak to any topic they would like to, this is a chance to address the commission. So anybody that would like to come up for the call of the public. Okay, well, so we have no takers, so we'll close that call to the public, and then we'll just turn the time over to the staff for any other matters of business that need to come before the Planning Commission at this time.
Well, of course, Chair Barris is the one that brought this to our attention. We elected him last year at this time to be the chair for the year. So we will have the opportunity to vote in a new chair for our Planning Commission at our next meeting in July. That will be on the 13th. So if you need to start getting your signs out and vote for me signs.
Normally it's like a vote to like not do it, like, you know, like you're trying to get someone else to do it.
And if you don't show up, guess what you're going to be the next time you come back? You'll be the chair.
We've done that before.
So make sure you're there. And then it looks like we've got meetings on the 13th and on the 27th in the month of July. As of right now, we don't have anything pending to bring to you. So we'll stay in touch as to what we're doing with those meetings, but just plan on those on the 13th. If we could make it really short. My son's coming home off his 2-year mission the next day, so
Oh, yeah.
I don't, no, it's all right. If we need to be here, we'll be here.
Where do you go? Where is he?
He's been in Phoenix, so it's going to be a
okay.
long trip home, like
It's an hour, 45-minute flight.
maybe, yeah, depending on how the wind's going, so.
I've done it many times.
So anyway, that will,
You get drink service and then you land.
I'm not excited at all, so Dan's been hearing about it for like 9 months.
You gotta count down. At 21 days, 34 minutes, and 18 seconds.
It's pretty pathetic, so. Anyway, other than that, thank you for all your time and effort and being here tonight. I think we've had a good discussion. We've checked off all of our boxes. We got all of our public hearings opened and closed. We've got motions, and we will get all this ready to take to City Council in a couple weeks. And so, other than that, Melinda is off riding her bike in the Black Hills of South Dakota. So hope she's doing well, and that she will be back with us soon, and no injuries, hopefully. And other than that, our new city manager was wanting to attend this evening, but I don't know if you want to wave to him, I don't know if he's on YouTube, but he intends to come and attend one of these meetings so that he can meet you, and as well as...
Do you have any background? Can you tell us a little bit about our new manager?
He is awesome. We're so glad to have him here. He is just kind of... He has a deer in the headlight look, kind of like drinking from a fire hose right now. He's been able to meet all the department heads. He's very smart. It's been really good to, pick his brain on a couple of things, and we're glad to have him here.
What's his name?
Jason Christensen. So if you want to apply to be a city manager, you have to have a Y in your name, because Shane Scott was Shane with a Y, and now Jason is Jason with a Y. So.
And where did he come from?
He came from St. Louis. Yeah, he came from Missouri. He lived in a city that he did not manage. It was a smaller city than ours, but had a very similar economic background. And he has family roots here, and so, or his wife has a lot of family roots here. And so they were wanting to bring their family back to Utah, and this position opened up, and he applied for it, and he was the best candidate for the job, so.
That's great. And it's Jason?
Jason with a Y.
Jason Christensen.
So, yeah, we're glad to have him. It's nice to have
And is
someone
it
back at the
E-
end of the hall.
E-N or O-N on the last name?
E-N.
Okay. Some people are very sensitive about that.
Yes, they are. I'm Mindy with an I, don't.
Right. Well, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
45 minutes.